Hi, we're coming to you from the Roar Room at Penn State, and we are here today to talk to you about pathways to environment and sustainability at Penn State. My name is Amit Sharma. I'm the Edward Friedman and Stuart Mann Professor of Hospitality Management from the School of Hospitality Management.
I'm Skylar Rebar. I'm an academic advisor in Recreation Parks and Tourism Management, and I also help to advise the Sustainability Leadership minor.
Hello, I'm Carter Hunt, an associate professor also in Recreation, Park, and Tourism Management with courtesy appointments in Anthropology and Latin American Studies, and I'm the director of the Sustainability Leadership minor for undergraduate students.
I'm Tim Kelsey. I'm a professor of agricultural economics, and I'm the program coordinator for the Community Environment Development major.
So, getting us started on a question for incoming students in particular, I'm wondering what you all think about why would incoming students to Penn State or current college students be thinking about environment and sustainability? When I talk to students, I try and give them a broad view of what sustainability is. Remember, there's the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's not just about one or two aspects of it, but curious to know what your thoughts are. Skylar, you want to get us started?
Yeah, I think everybody thinks about sustainability every day in one way or another. And really at the core, sustainability is making sure that our needs are being met now without compromising future generations' needs. And we talk about that a lot, but I think that college students think about it a lot on a daily basis without even realizing it. And wanting these things that we enjoy now and we need now, wanting them to stick around and be useful in the future is important, because the things that we appreciate now or take for granted and appreciate, whether that be environmentally, economically, socially, amongst friends and peers and colleagues, is just important.
Yeah.
It's everyday life.
Good point. Carter?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think in addition to many of the moral and ethical reasons why we want to think about the impacts we're having with the current generation and what that leaves for future generations, I think it's also important for students, parents, donors, other faculty, administrators to think about the career opportunities that sustainability presents. And so that's one of the things that the curricular programs that I know many of us are involved with are aiming to do in terms of preparing students for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to add on to that, particularly when you think about careers, a lot of students want to have a career that makes a difference in the world. And in the environment, sustainability issues, I think, are really pressing now. And if anything, they're going to be more pressing in the future. And so that kind of catches students' interest as well, too.
Right. Yeah. Interesting points. Thinking about the value of education, so to speak. What impact can someone have with this knowledge on sustainability and environment, whether from a degree or a course perspective? And the way I like to introduce it to the students is that this is not something niche. It's part of your leadership that you're going to bring to your organizations and to the community. But what are your thoughts? Carter, any thoughts on that, please?
Well, sustainability is something that I try to describe to students as not necessarily an end goal or a state that we're trying to achieve. It's just it's a quality that we're always trying to achieve more of. Mm-hmm. So I try to encourage folks to not get bogged down in thinking about whether we've arrived at a sustainable state or not, because that can be endlessly debatable depending on the metrics and the viewpoint that people have. But looking at ways of making things more sustainable makes it a little bit more easy, more accessible. And, somebody whose writings I found very inspiring is Wendell Berry. I was actually a neighbor of Wendell Berry's many years ago. He's been very influential in the organic agriculture movement. And he would say, you start with a small problem first. So finding any identifiable problem and working towards that solution is one thing that the sustainability thinking can provide. And once you solve that problem, you move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to worry about necessarily to take on the task of arriving at sustainability. We can just think about all the opportunities around us every day to be a little bit more sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and it's in big choices like what career you want to take, other kinds of activities, but it's also in the small choices. What kind of car do I want to buy? What kind of food do I want to buy? A house I live in? What kind of relationships I have with others and within the community? And so even if a student doesn't major in something directly related to the environment and sustainability, I think along the way they can learn how to be a good citizen and how to fit those elements within their future lives.
Yeah, so it's aligned with what you were saying, that you're thinking about sustainability all the time in one way or the other. But what do you think about a broader impact that education can have?
Yeah, I think the education piece can really set a student up for success when looking for future jobs. It really sets them apart in the interview process when an employer can see, like, I've had this knowledge gain, I've had these experiences. It's at the forefront of my mind, and that's what businesses and organizations and services should be looking at for somebody who's thinking innovatively, thinking about the impact that the business or organization has on the environment, has economically, has socially. So a student that's already prepared with that kind of knowledge and skill set is really important. It can have a really great impact because, what you were saying, one small change or one small choice that a student can make within themselves, within what they're doing, within how they're impacting the environment can change and trickle. And I think that's what employers are looking for.
Yeah. So we at Penn State, we have a broad range of choices when it comes to majors and courses. If you each can give some examples of some of the courses that come to mind, or the majors. One thing I want to point out is that recently we will be able to now label all our courses with different aspects of sustainability or dimensions of sustainability. So that'll open up choices even more for students. In the School of Hospitality Management, we are connected with the Sustainability minor and the Food Systems minor. So that allows us to offer sustainability aspect related courses to students. Tim, do you want to give us some examples?
Yeah, I'm in the College of Agricultural Sciences, and the food systems minor is one of them. We have several. Most of our majors are related to environment sustainability. You think about plant science, you think about animal science, you think about other production agricultural majors. We have several other majors that are focused more directly on sustainability and environment. We have an environmental resource management major, which is focused on kind of the technical natural science aspects of monitoring water quality in environment. We also have the community environment development major, which focuses on sustainability and environment more from a kind of the implementation standpoint. How do you work with folks to be able to reach agreement? How do you develop policies that make a difference, and so on? So many of the majors in our college relate one way or another to sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Skylar, do you want to talk a little bit about the sustainability minor, and then maybe Carter can talk some more about HHT?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the sustainability leadership minor is wonderful in that it's inter-college, and so students from across the Commonwealth can connect what they're doing in their major. So even Smeal College of Business, you're talking the College of Education, any of them, College of Liberal Arts, you can connect your major work to what your interests or what your career goals are with sustainability. So it really does allow students to create a really nice personalized pathway with obviously the advising from Dr. Hunt and I to make sure that the validity of the curriculum and you're leaving with the skills and the knowledge and the hands-on experiences that we would like to see you have, so that we make sure that the experiences that you had are valid for your future career choices. But it's really nice because we have students from across the Commonwealth that come and they are excited about sustainability in one way or another, and they're excited to connect their major to that minor. Mm-hmm. And Recreation, Parks, and Tourism Management does that really well as well. I mean, when you're talking recreation and tourism in the future, you really are having to have that conversation about sustainability and what that means for community recreation, for commercial recreation, for our outdoor recreation students. Environment, economic, and social aspects of sustainability are important, and so those conversations also happen on that major level too.
Mm-hmm. Carter, a little bit about the College of Health and Human Development that
Sure.
the three of us represent.
Yeah, we're well represented today.
Well represented today, yes.
But I want to circle back to what you said about this new attribute that's been approved, so that students can think about kind of the tiers of sustainability-related educational offerings that Penn State has. Right, we have things from single courses out there that almost every major or every department has some version of nowadays, regardless of the discipline that students are starting in. That can include participation in certain student organizations. The Student Sustainability Advisory Council comes to mind that directly reports to the president with its recommendations every semester. And then those can grow, right? There's a second tier where we might have certificate options and eventually get into the minors. So that's what we've been working on, me and Skylar, quite a bit in the last few years, is this minor that allows students from any major, and even some of the other Commonwealth campuses, to add to their existing major options a pathway that helps them compete for the types of jobs in those fields. And so one thing we've learned there is there needs to be some flexibility because sustainability works a little differently for the different majors, and what's going to help a business student compete in their job market is going to be different than what might help one of our BTM students compete. So I've enjoyed working there and learning about the breadth of offerings around campus. So I want to acknowledge the other colleges and the offerings that they have, and not just our own, because there is going to be hundreds of classes with the sustainability attribute very soon. And we're going to be thinking about ways of maybe going up to the next tier, thinking about different major options and things like that. And some of those already exist, like CED, and geography has a new sustainability-focused major as well. We want to make those kind of pathways available for every existing major out there. Yeah. The sustainability minor is one of those opportunities right now that does exist, and I'm sure we'll see more in the future. And one thing we often do when we're advising in the minor is I encourage students to bring up a job description of their fantasy jobs, what would they really like to have. And almost inevitably, there's going to be something in there where the minor is going to allow them to compete more effectively for those types of jobs. So we approach it from an employability and marketability perspective. As one of the big focus of our advising efforts.
Yeah, and to your point, I think what I don't know if the three of you will agree that there's almost a culture change of the way we think about sustainability. That's not just one major or one minor. It's sort of systemically we are starting to rethink how we do the courses as incorporating sustainability more effectively. To your point, Carter, what do you all think about how such educational experiences can contribute to job prospects, internship opportunities, whether with commercial, nonprofit organizations? We see that all the time. Organizations are looking for some level of awareness among students about sustainability broadly and more specifically about the discipline. But what are your thoughts, Skylar?
Yeah, I think the work that students get to do in the sustainability leadership minor specifically and across the Commonwealth with other sustainability majors and minors and programs is that they get to oftentimes work hands-on with different companies and organizations and businesses in the local State College area, but also on Penn State campus. So they get experience at Shavers Creek Environmental Center, at the Penn State Student Farm. They get to work with EcoReps organization. They're working with those organizations that are on campus, but separate in how they might operate. And they get those contacts and that information, and they get opportunities outside of that, whether it's a career fair or networking event with that organization, whether they're meeting other partners that are there. School districts from the local areas will come to Shavers Creek. So it really does open a lot more doors for those students to continue on with internships after they've graduated and to talk to those professionals in those spaces about where they can go from there.
Carter, you see the sort of the chatter even in the larger career fairs where companies are coming in to recruit?
Well, I think in some, academic disciplines that's been there for a few years. We work in the tourism sector. I focus a lot of my research on ecotourism. It's been a long time now that you couldn't go to a job fair and say, hey, come check out these unsustainable forms of tourism. Right? It's been very central in some disciplines for a long time, agriculture as well. Yeah. But now, we're seeing it materialize in all the disciplines in some way or another. There's, fashion industry and obviously in technology implication. What are the sustainability implications of AI? There's all kinds of new conversations that are going to be continuing to unfold in the coming years, and so there's going to need to be some agility in how we're approaching this from an educational standpoint. But, I think everybody's looking forward, and certainly this type of credentialing can help distinguish students in the job market from those that haven't obtained that credential, of course.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and add on there, I think. There is a role for sustainability in many careers and occupations. I think it's important to highlight there are some careers that are specifically focused directly on that. I think about land use planning. I think about economic or environmental consulting. Think about environmental law, corporate social responsibility work, whether that be in business, whether it be in accrediting organizations. Depending on a student's interest, they can find a full career focused on those topics, or it could also be an element of what they do in addition to their other passions or interests.
Right. Yeah. So another aspect that we all like to remind students, undergraduate students, is research, and there's sort of a revival of that dynamic, that energy across the campus. Any interesting research projects that you can give examples of that students have worked on that relate to sustainability? I'll start with one of our students in my research lab is working on visualizing locations where food aid is available. We call it the free food map. And it sort of brings in the interdisciplinarity of how things converge in the sustainability space. That she's also she's bringing in her computing skills and actually creating a platform where a lot of this work will be automated, where people will be able to see where food aid is. So, addresses sustainable development goal number 1. Anything else that comes to mind, a project or a research idea students have worked on?
I mean, in the sustainability leadership minor, every student's required to do a capstone project.
Yeah.
We have minor students from pretty much every college. We've seen a huge gamut of projects there. I could barely scratch the surface, but everything from marine biology to, like I mentioned earlier, sustainable fashion, looking at products made out of organic materials or even fungi as a textile material. We've seen performative dance projects focused on promoting sustainability through the arts. And so it goes from there. Documentary work.
That would be
students.
Sorry, just to interrupt. That will be cultural, sort of. Just how would that sustainability?
Sure, and I think that's an example. We tend to think of climate, environment, biodiversity as the primary way of approaching sustainability, but we're far beyond that now. Certainly in health and human development, health is front and center in the sustainability conversation. But there's no reason we can't see arts and humanities making valuable contributions there as well. And we've seen designated exhibits come through the Palmer Museum in recent years about raising awareness around plastic consumption and things like that. So I think, it's something that all disciplines can contribute to. And of course, credentialing and all those disciplines are going to help those students distinguish themselves in those careers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, your example really strikes me as a social scientist. When I think about sustainability and environment, it's not wholly technical. It's more of at least from a social science perspective, it's more people adopting new ways of doing it. And interpretive dance, other kinds of ways to communicate the value and need for it help convey that, to help us advance, even though it might not be technically sustainable. It still makes a difference.
Yeah.
With research, the most kind of interesting research project that I'm aware of was a student that it wasn't a formal research project. She was during the summer doing relief work in Nepal. It was after an earthquake. And while they're in this little village with all the other volunteers, she suddenly realized that what she was seeing in the community was a boom bust cycle that she'd learned about in one of the classes of, kind of sudden influx of money. And as soon as that money goes away, the community is going to be worse off. And on her own, she developed a survey using skills she learned in school, developed a survey of the local businesses, identified where the volunteers were spending money, and developed a program within that group of volunteers to be able to, I think she called it, spread the wealth among the different businesses in the community. And what I really like about that is it was on her own kind of making the connection, seeing, hey, here's a problem, and she had the tools and abilities to be able to put them together to make an impactful difference one way or the other.
Yeah, that's a great example. Sort of leading into that, there's a whole space. There's a lot of interdisciplinarity in not just the educational part, but also the research part that students encounter. Any examples that you can give that are interesting? If I may, I'll start with one. Just to your point, Tim, economics is not always directly considered, as Carter was saying. It's been mostly environment and climate related. There is an entrepreneurship minor at Penn State that's university-wide. And then there's a collaboration with engineering students that actually relate that to humanitarian engineering, and they can be cross-sections with health. So you've got a whole lot of things happening in that sustainability space. But other thoughts, examples?
Well, I might just say that, pursuing sustainability-related education here gives you a chance to weave through a lot of existing offerings that Penn State has. Yeah. So, we're interested in developing more sophisticated credentialing, other major options, of course, but there's a lot of existing activities around. And a CED student could weave into study abroad programming like Tim just talked about. We see that in our minor as well, where our students are required to do an immersive sustainability experience that might take advantage of the Shavers Creek Education Center, Environmental Education Center, the student farm, but it can also take advantage of the many study abroad offerings led by faculty at Penn State or through other entities. So it's an opportunity to weave through these many different offerings. And so it doesn't have to be one pathway. I think that's something that's valuable to think about, is the different offerings provide not just interdisciplinary connections, but the opportunity to kind of personalize the type of preparation that students can get,
Yeah. Skylar, just to that point, how do you just, if you were to give some general advice to advisors as well as to students, what are some of the lessons learned in trying to navigate that, creating that pathway? Because it can be exciting opportunities, but not always easily accessible if you don't pay attention. So, what are some of the points that you would suggest?
Yes, there's a lot. And the flexibility is wonderful because it does allow students to, like I've said before, combine their major coursework with their interests and goals in sustainability or where they would like to go in the future. But they have to navigate it. And sometimes those choices are a little bit too much, and you can kind of see the look on a student's face where I've just given them a plethora of options and they ask, where do I start? And so, you really think about, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's that ultimate career goal? And what are things that they're looking for in a sustainability student? What things are they looking for that I've done? Are they looking for that I have taught lessons on sustainability to others? Are they looking that I have implemented new programs or procedures on my university campus that have made things more sustainable? Are they, seeing that I've, offered awareness to folks who aren't aware of sustainability practices? Am I creating processes and procedures in, a marketing program or a business organization? And that's really where we start, and we navigate through the general education that makes best sense to support what they're going to be doing immersively. And if the immersive experience is that they should study abroad and go look at other sustainable practices across the world and bring that back, and then it can lend itself to a really great capstone experience. That's something that we'll work on, and we'll make sure that they can get connected to resources. But I think a major thing, and I tell all students this, is check in with your advisors, check in with your faculty members, take notes, and make sure you're following through with the things that you're going to say that you want to do, because that's really it. It's going to be student projected. Students have to take ownership over those experiences and what they want, and they need to do the work to make it happen.
And they need to start doing the work early, because I routinely hear from juniors and seniors that, wow, they never knew that such and such existed here, and it's too late for them to participate. So new students jump in.
Yeah. They do.
I agree, though, that a quick 15, 20-minute conversation with an advisor or faculty member can often inform them more than an hour spent perusing online and being overwhelmed by the content they encounter. So talking with people that are supervising those programs goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So start early and see your academic advisor, right?
Right.
Never too late to make a good decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always. Sorry. Go ahead.
I would also, and don't be afraid of making the wrong decision. If you try something and you decide you don't like it, you've learned from it, and you're not going to consider that in the future. So you still gain from making mistakes. I'm hesitant to call it a mistake, but
and don't rely on your friends for academic advice, because things change very fast at Penn State, right? We talked about employability. Are there any suggestions for students as they are going for interviews and preparing their resumes in the job market for internships? What would you advise, Tim?
I think it's really important when students are preparing for internships or kind of job things to be able to describe to themselves and thus to their kind of potential employer, what are their skills and competencies? What have they learned? What can they do? What are their passions? What are they excited about doing? What do they enjoy doing? And that helps them bring that passion to the employer, which employers are looking for. And related to it, it's not just generic, hey, I have the skill, but being able to quickly be able to say where they learn that. So it's not just, hey, I'm a leader. Well, can you give me an example of where you exhibited leadership, for them to be able to describe that right up front? So they really need to know themselves to be able to communicate and convey who they are to a potential employer.
Carter?
Well, I do think, being able to identify the skills that are of value in the area you want to work in, and those skills are going to be very different if you're a mechanical engineering undergrad or a biobehavioral health student or communication or a recreation park and tourism management. But there will be some identifiable skills of relevance to employers in those areas. So trying to get some clarity on what those are and how to best present your version of those, the preparation you've had with that skill set, those analysis abilities, the communication skills, the reading, writing, other types of presentation skills, content knowledge, all those things can be helpful in that process.
Any advising perspectives?
I really enjoy when we find a student, and I can speak on RPTM and sustainability leadership, when they come and they're excited And that kind of excitement and passion, I think, is so important. We need to pick careers and jobs where this is going to be our future, and we're excited about where it's going. And there's a really beautiful combination with sustainability in that way, because then that's a sustainable future for yourself. You're building it. And this is where it comes back to, we think about sustainability every single day. We just don't put a name to it sometimes. And so I think that excitement and confidence is really important, because an employer wants to see that you're confident. And I know that we build confidence every day. And in this time period, we really are building confidence as undergraduate students, but having that confidence in your passion and the work. And it was great that you mentioned about pulling skills that you learned from classes. Even those experiences are so important, but being able to talk about yourself and be excited about it.
Yeah, and just to link all what the three of you said, and connecting that with what the job or the internship opportunity is, because you should be able to create that thread that, hey, you need this. Guess what? I have that experience, and I can translate that into through my skills.
Absolutely. And there's a cheat sheet for doing that as well, too. If they look at what the position description
Right.
is, they typically
Exactly.
say, these are the skills needed.
That's it.
Those are the ones to highlight.
Yeah, and more likely than not, they have been exposed to those, whether through content or through the process of the academic coursework. They've been introduced to those skills. One last advice for our students who are coming in and getting them excited about sustainability. This the idea or the thinking around sustainability, I would say. Tim?
I'd jump in, as we've said. I think don't hold back. Explore a variety of majors, a variety of different programs. Really find what makes your heart leap and jump. You've got one real advantage, I think, here at Penn State. Large university, lots and lots of programs, a lot of opportunities, and for students to really sample and find their niche.
Okay. Carter?
Totally agree. We have a huge smorgasbord of opportunities at all levels, again, starting from single classes all the way up into full majors and beyond into graduate programs. So, kind of like the advice I said earlier, find one opportunity and check that out, and maybe that'll lead to more and more and more. So sky's the limit, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, take advantage, take risks, try something different that you're not used to, that's out of your comfort zone. And don't talk yourself out of telling yourself that you can't make a difference, because truly, truly, one small change, even in your daily life, can really ensure a better future just for you. So just knowing that small change, I'm going to drink more water today and I'm going to feel better. And then, I can do that every single day, really can magnify on a global level when we think about it. So that's, what we're looking for in sustainability, for students to think innovatively, to be confident in themselves, and to understand that even one small difference and one student added to that pool of sustainable thinking really can change everything for the future.
Yeah. My suggestion would be that, based on what you're passionate about, I think you all have used these words before, you will find something to connect with sustainability. And as a cheat sheet, look at the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them, and they're very inclusive. You'll find something that you're really passionate about. So we talked about how sustainability is getting part of the Penn State culture, which includes spaces that we don't always think of that are directly academic. Skylar, can you mentioned the Shavers Creek. Are there other spaces, including that, you can talk briefly about?
Yeah, Shavers Creek is Penn State's field lab. It's Shavers Creek Environmental Center. It's located about 12 miles south of campus. And so there's oftentimes that there's transport there, that student activities will arrange transport for students to go there. So it's a space for students to explore, to be immersed in the environment and the nature and the wildlife that's there and the educators that are present. But it's also an opportunity for students to take courses out there. And even if you're not in the sustainability leadership minor space, or you need those classes in order to graduate, like recreation, parks, and tourism management students need, you can take classes in general education out there and get experience. So it's a really nice way to incorporate some sustainability experience without, agreeing to an entire major or minor course plan. So students can get involved in outdoor school and teach fifth grade students about the environmental space and the outdoor world around them and how we're all interconnected. So they can get some general health and wellness credits there. There's other really great courses that are incorporated in our outdoor recreation pathway through RPTM, where students get those hands-on experiences interpreting nature and the environment to folks of different ages and groups, running events there at the center. So it's just a really nice space for students to go, and you can go study by the lake there. You can study in the woods. You can get some hiking in.
Sure,
So it's
yeah.
really a Penn State space for students.
Tim, you mentioned the food systems minor, and that's connected to the student farm. Can you talk a little bit about that? And the student farm is another space that's highly integrated into sustainability.
Penn State has a student farm that's just at the edge of campus that in which students essentially run the farm. They determine what to plant. They manage the space. They sell the produce, but it gives them a hands-on experience working in an agricultural environment and thinking about not just the production side, but the marketing and communication side. So it's a good way to get some hands-on experience. I know the students who have involved really speak highly of it. They really enjoy there during the school year, but also their opportunities to do internships or their work there during the summer as well.
Yeah. And then that's also connected with other minors and the sustainability minor as well, right, Carter?
Sure. We have Penn State has a sustainability website, psu.sustainability.edu, I believe, or maybe it's sustainability.psu.edu. And some of those opportunities we listed there. So a student can see a bit of a menu of the options there. The student farm would be referenced. They also describe the Sustainable Communities Collaborative, which is a chance for faculty to seek opportunities to engage with local partners and have their students work through projects there. That group of folks has also helped identify literally hundreds of classes on offer at Penn State, in different disciplines that have a sustainability focus or relationship. And they're in the process now of creating a new attribute for all courses at Penn State that would be searchable by students as they're seeking courses for their scheduling in the coming semesters. So that program, that attribute will allow students to identify those classes. It will allow faculty to nominate their own classes to be searchable for that purpose. And it'll be the types of things that we'll be using to fulfill requirements in the Sustainability Leadership minor, and others might think about as they think about other academic curricular programs, bringing those courses with the sustainability attribute, the sustainability focus to them. There's a master list until that attribute becomes active, which we hope is in the very, very near future. There is a master list on that sustainability website of courses at the individual level, but also some of these other engaged scholarship programs, the Sustainable Communities Collaborative, opportunities at the student farm to get credit or do internships there for money or for credit, even capstone projects in some cases, opportunities out at Shavers Creek as well. So the menu is bigger than it's ever been.
Right, yeah. And even if students are, and it's talking about other spaces, even if you're employed on campus, say in the dining halls, there's a whole sustainability push there to reduce food waste, to reduce waste in general, paper waste, recyclable the containers that the dining halls have been trying to do. So one way or the other, you're going to have an engagement or interaction with sustainability-related activities or academic experiences. We talked about a lot of aspects of academic life. There's sort of the extracurricular activities as well, particularly student clubs. Not to mention Thon. Such a huge sort of aspect of the Penn State fabric. Can you think of how students can engage in those activities and still, in some way or the other, bring in sustainability?
There are clubs
Right.
specifically focused on sustainability.
Exactly, right.
EcoReps does training in dorms to help students understand sustainable practices. I think there's a brand new club that's focused on fast fashion. There are a variety of other clubs that's their predominant focus, and so it's easy to get involved with them.
Yeah. And a lot of student clubs raise money for philanthropic activities, and that sort of directly relates to Sustainable Development Goal number 17, that you got to collaborate to solve the bigger societal problems. Yeah.
One club that I mentioned earlier, organization, is the Student Sustainability Advisory Council, the SSAC. It's a group of students that spend each semester assembling information about Penn State's efforts to promote sustainability operationally in a lot of cases, and presents a report that's delivered directly to the president of the university. So I often encourage students to consider that because it's a main line of communication directly to the highest levels of administration at the university. And so particularly influential opportunity in terms of student organization activity there.
Yeah. We also have a club or a student-led initiative for those who need food or for food aid or food access. So,
I think those all reflect the student interest in sustainability. I think
Right.
in our generation, for those of us that are a little bit older, we didn't have sustainability classes in high school. We didn't have them in college. There wasn't clubs of this nature. And now students are coming into the university. For those of us that also teach classes at the undergrad level in sustainability topics, in just a few years, we see courses taught a few years ago where students had no prior experience with sustainability to now students are coming in having been trained even in high schools before they get to Penn State. So they're coming in looking for it, insisting on it, demanding it. And, we're doing our best to keep that menu of options available to them and make it as broad as possible.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound cliche, but really the opportunities are there if you want to seek them. If you're asking questions around sustainability, one way or the other, you'll be able to get an opportunity at Penn State.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, and thank you to my fellow colleagues for being part of this conversation. We are
Penn
State.